So we'll do the roll call. Start with Nancy.
Nancy Knight, member. Kathy Chandler, member.
Bob Gilbert, member.
Terry Waite, member.
Ray Kachasky, member.
Cindy Picos, member.
Harry Nodowitz, alternate.
Wendy Rockhaver, alternate.
You. Review and acceptance of the minutes of July 4th. Okay. We have all the members here.
Okay. I had a couple of comments.
Right. 10.
Yeah, okay.
We don't have any extra copies floating around, do we?
I do.
Do you? Oh,
The
good.
minutes?
Yeah.
You can always look with me. You can always look with me.
Okay.
Give me July 10th.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
July 10th?
Yeah.
He asked for July 4th.
First. Oh, yeah.
Did I say 4th?
Yeah, you did.
I'm sorry.
I thought you said July
you were
4th.
He
celebrating.
did, he did, and that's why I asked him. I said, which one?
July 10th, I'm sorry.
We have a meeting July 4th?
I know.
2014.
Oh, good.
One person away.
Awesome.
Now,
You're cool.
can you be like official what they edit?
Okay, now go easy on me.
To Sharon's not here today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just for this though, right?
Yes, just for this.
Okay.
We've got 2 different recording devices going, so she's going to have to work off those.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to.
First, I was just kind of wondering why Wendy Rathgaber got great billing with a big and in front of her name and the alternate seat.
That's obviously not deserved.
Starring. On the list of, under public hearing, site plan review, WVBTS, there were several items listed with regard to the box rail structure that we had requested. And I think one of them was the contour, existing and proposed contours, and that wasn't listed here. So I think we should list that because that was one of the ones things we had requested. And I didn't really have any other specific things, didn't finish reading it, but I did want to note that in the second paragraph on the second page, it says the application was voted upon as complete and as part of this meeting. I think that we ought to, in these minutes, recorded minutes, have a more standardized way of noting the votes. And this is one of the reasons we have to bring up one of these other meetings of a year or so ago, because it's not sometimes made clear in the record as to what's voted on, you know, a clear motion, what's voted on and whether it was passed or not passed. This is an example here. It casually says the application was voted upon, but it really should be more official than that, I think. And I'm not sure exactly what the wording should be, but I think that although all the discussions and so forth are important for the record, I think the most important things are the votes, and that they should be a little bit more established. That's all I have.
In what way?
In what way? Well, just a specific way of writing it in a paragraph. In other words, you might, whenever there's a vote, you might start out with resolution, motion by such and such, and what the motion was exactly, and then vote so many for, so many against, or something like that. But every time there's a vote, you should see that same thing.
Pattern.
Yeah, because it's particularly important, I think, when we go to any kind of, not that the planning board would, but usually it's a little more formal than that, because when you go to some sort of institution, they need to see a vote of whatever it is the organization is. It's much clearer to have it listed as a resolution and exactly how it's voted. I don't think it's necessary in all cases to say who voted for, who voted against, but I think it would be important to say whether it's unanimous or whether there was 5 yeas, 2 nays, or something like that.
Discuss this in the past. Yeah.
And also, if you add items, like let's say you have an application before you and you ask for an additional plan or whatever, the next month that they come in, that should be an exhibit or an amendment or, you know, something an appendix or something to the original application so that we can track them
Right.
month to month. Because sometimes you have 2 or 3 or longer periods of discussion, and you get a whole bunch of different stuff coming in relationship, and then when you approve it, if there are conditions, especially on the applications, if there are any conditions, then we should, in the motion, write what the condition is, how long they have to meet the condition, and there should be something that says what happens, what you want to have happen if the condition isn't met. So, you know, failure to meet the conditions will result in non-approval, you know, or whatever it is. That way, staff has very specific guidance on,
Yeah.
you know, and especially the length of time, because Ray, I know we've got some issues still with BBTS. It's just going on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing that we can point to in the approval that says, if you don't do this within X number of days, then this will happen. And that really helps us on the enforcement side to be able to say, you didn't do it. You know, here it is right here.
We're gonna make sure the applicant understands.
And the
conditional
applicant
approval
understands
is
the
not
conditions.
approval.
That's right. Because they hear approval and then they leave and it's over. And my experience lately has been every time we send them a letter, whether it's from town council or code officer or the selectman, we've got to give them 30 days to rectify the situation. You know, then they come in on day 28 and they say, oh, we haven't gotten to this yet. Can we, you know, and it just, that's how it just keeps going. I like the specificity, Terry. It will help us.
Any other comments on those minutes? A motion to accept them?
I make a motion to accept the minutes of July 10th, 2014,
As amended.
as amended.
A second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Were you talking about the October 2011 minutes? Mr. Chairman, could
That's, yeah.
we discuss those as part of the minutes approval, or are they later in the agenda?
The subdivision,
I
it's
thought they were
down
on
new
the-
business, it's down in new
Yeah.
business.
Oh, okay, all right, we'll wait, thank you. Sorry.
So now the minutes of July 22nd, 23rd? 2/3, July 2/3.
I don't have them.
We don't have
We don't have them.
Ooh,
And I do not have them in the packet.
Okay, she
Okay.
said she wanted to.
Wait a minute, let me,
Okay,
Was that the review of the?
oh, wait.
that was a special meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a special.
Yeah.
Okay. Get those ones done.
Yeah, we'll have to do a next meeting, I don't have them.
Okay. Now, the next thing is the amendments of the minutes of the 10/11/13 at the golf course maintenance building subdivision plan.
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
So, did you get copies of the
Yeah,
minutes?
but I don't
Yeah.
have mine with me.
Yeah, my printer.
Okay, I have them
Okay,
here.
okay.
Basically, there was a motion to accept the application as complete, and that carried. That was
I might have that.
okay. Then Ray opened the public hearing at 8:16. You talked about it, there's a very short discussion recorded here. And then the public hearing was closed 5 minutes later. And then Cindy made a motion to accept the application as presented. Well, that's not really approving the subdivision. So, and we never recorded the Mylar.
Right.
So we are asking the board to consider amending these minutes to be a motion to approve the subdivision as presented. Ray has signed the Mylar. That will complete the record and we'll get it recorded at the registry.
Cindy signed
I
it.
signed it too.
So
Yeah,
signed
you
it.
signed it,
Yeah,
okay.
it's all done.
So, does everyone see what the issue is here? Wendy?
So what,
It's at the bottom, on the second page it's at the top.
That's one of the problems you kind of
Yeah.
alluded to.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Somehow-
if you guys remember if there were conditions or anything, but those are kind of moot at this point.
I
I
don't
mean, the
believe there were
property
any
is,
conditions.
I don't believe there were.
It's
So-
pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
okay.
with this explanation of why he wanted to do
Yeah,
it.
Even though it was an illegal
But again,
subdivision.
you know,
Yeah.
there should have
Why
been a
was it
condition
illegal?
on it. The condition should have been the Mylar.
Right, right.
And I usually do that.
Mhm.
Had to do with the building and the primary
You know,
building.
These
Oh.
conditions are killing us.
Well, the other thing was, if you remember, he was going to put apartments, remember,
Oh.
above the garage, remember? And it wasn't so.
Yeah, but he abandoned that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it turned out something about the secondary building, there wasn't a primary building.
Oh, I
Right.
remember that
Right.
discussion.
I remember he just said that he might put
Secondary.
apartment above.
An apartment.
But
You're not supposed to have a building on
Yeah,
a,
he never.
the building on a recreational zone piece of property is can only be supplemental to the primary use of the, primary recreational use of the property or something like that. And that particular subdivision didn't have any recreational use as a lot by itself.
Right.
And so
If
it
he had
should have
left
a
it
building.
as a golf course, that building would have been,
If you were to play
Supplemental
golf
to-
on that
right.
particular piece of
Right.
property, then the building would be
Right.
fine, but because you're not,
right.
yeah. So it really didn't meet the requirement. I remember we just kinda said, okay. After we voted for it.
so just so I mark this.
Sort of like this, what did they have?
Yeah.
Yeah, just so I mark this correctly, or just, what exactly are the changes we're making?
Well, there's no motion to amend it yet.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to amend it?
Is that what we want to do?
Yeah. amend
Well,
it.
that's up
How
to
do we
you.
want it amended to, what amendment are we
Here are the
looking to do?
minutes.
I think we want to amend it to show that there was a vote
Oh, no, this is.
to approve the subdivision as submitted, I guess,
That's correct.
as opposed to saying a motion to accept the application as presented.
Yeah, we had already
Approve the
accepted it.
It had already been accepted.
Exactly.
right.
So it really, it was the actual approval of the subdivision, and right now the town records don't record that approval.
Okay, so I would say this is a resolution, I move that, now how do you, in a record like this, how would you identify, there's no page number, there's no line number on the record. So it's a little difficult to identify exactly what it is you're referring to. I mean, I'll do the best I can here, but perhaps we ought to start numbering these lines and have it, and also have an official page number, something like that, because I know that when I print something out of my printer,
Yeah.
a lot of times the pagination is different than
That's correct.
something that's.
Official.
Yeah, so
official
perhaps
copy.
the, whatever it is that's sent out should be in the form of a PDF file as opposed to a.
Yep.
We can
Word,
download it.
I think that way the pagination would be the same.
Yeah.
I move that, okay, let me start over again. Resolution, reference to, planning board meeting minutes dated October 13th, 2011. Under the heading Waterville Company Incorporated Subdivision Application. The paragraph quote, motion to accept the application as presented be revised to, okay, that's the reference. The resolution is, I move that the wording for the reference paragraph be revised to read, the motion was made and seconded to accept the subdivision application as presented, or to approve the subdivision application as presented. And it was voted, motion was as completed. Well, no, it was as presented. The application had been accepted prior to that. Now, this was supposed to be the vote on the subdivision approval. The motion was made, seconded, and passed, or however you would write it, voted on and passed, or something
Yep.
like that.
Just so we have a record that it was.
Right.
And we'll pull the reference off of the Mylar, the subdivision plan of, and then we'll put the title, if that's all right.
Yeah, it
In
should
your
be,
motion.
yeah.
That way we
It
can
would help if you could
identify.
specifically
Yeah.
identify that.
Shouldn't that motions include pending Mylar?
We don't have the Mylar yet?
Yeah, we did.
No, we
it's-
have.
It's
We
done,
have.
it needs to be recorded.
Yeah. At this point, I don't think
It doesn't
that
make
you,
much
it
difference.
doesn't make much
Right.
difference,
Usually I
but
put
in
a
the future,
condition
right.
on it, and I guess
Yep.
that's something we should talk about. But go ahead. I'll second the motion. All in favor, or any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Would you read your motion again?
There's no way
somebody
I could
was
do
gonna
that.
do that.
No.
Who recorded the motion? Did anybody record the motion?
No, it will be on that tape, right?
Yeah, it's gonna have to come off the tape. I did not write it down, but I will,
Get it
we'll
on.
send it to you, Janet. We'll have to.
I move.
Yeah, no, I'll
We're
get it.
struggling
We'll
with
get it to you.
a new way of doing it here.
Yeah.
I should have written it down.
I'll get it to you.
Thank you.
Only reason I wouldn't give it to you again, because that'd probably be different than
Which is another thing, you know, motions really need to be in writing.
They do. I agree. They should be written down and
Mhm.
They will be. Anyway, we should talk about that Mylar, because that's always been a problem. If we approve it without the Mylar, and our regulations say we don't approve it till we get a Mylar.
Mhm.
You know, maybe we shouldn't have conditions anymore, just, when you bring the Mylar in next month, we'll sign it. Just a thought.
But how do you, in order, if you're the developer and you're bringing all your paperwork
No, I know.
into the, yeah, but let me finish, into the board, and then you're saying, can I get this approved? They're expecting some sort of changes, and so they're not gonna bring the Mylar in until they have all those changes. And you're not gonna bring the Mylar in until the board basically says, fine, this is approved. So it just seems to me like, if you're going to do that, you're gonna have a condition on every approval.
That's what we always do
Yeah.
with the Mylar. And then things like this happen, you know, the bear walks away and then Mylar, we forget to check the Mylar, somehow it doesn't come in, and now a couple of years later.
Okay.
Well, I
But our
recommended,
regulations say that we have to have the Mylar when we approve it.
Okay.
And usually what happens is they come in 1 month, we have the discussion, they come back the second month. So that things are pretty firmed up by the second month. But if they aren't, then the developer comes in the next month and we sign it and then it's done. Nothing drops through the floor, because it's, anyway, just a thought.
Well, then we ought to get that wording down with regard to the proper way of conditioning something. There's two ways of conditioning something,
Right.
pre and post or something
Mhm.
like that. I can't remember the
Mhm.
wording. But maybe we gotta have some sort of a statement that we use when we,
change your regulations so the developer knows what's gonna be expected.
well, we can do that, but I'm thinking about it, when we vote
Mhm.
to approve, we should be consistent. And we should be using the proper verbiage.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure our regulations say we have to have the Mylar to approve it. And we just never do that for that reason, because the developer don't want the cost of a Mylar until he knows for
Right.
sure it's done, and I sympathize with that. Okay.
I also recommended to Ray that the chairman, vice chairman, and secretary have a post-meeting get-together, either Friday or the following Monday or whatever after your regular meeting, just to go over Sharon's notes with her and make sure if there are suspense items or anything else pending, or if you want to send a letter to somebody that says, hey, a reminder, our next meeting is, and you said that you were gonna be here to do such and such.
After each planning board meeting?
After each planning board meeting, probably take 15 minutes or so to just go over with her if you wanted to draft up. Because I think that when people come in, just to clarify so that you're thinking what they're thinking, like BBTS, you said that you were gonna be in the next month, so here's the dates. If you wanna do an application, you have to have everything in by this date, just as a little reminder to them, and then, if they don't show up, they don't show up,
Right.
but.
So the Sharon has the proper listing.
So, and she has the suspense list correct on what you think is gonna happen the next month. Maybe it's not all three of you, but, a couple of you just going over that with her would be helpful. And then that'll help things not falling through the cracks.
Yeah, because Sununu was gonna come in and talk about the tubing bill.
Yeah,
He said he was gonna come in with a new application.
absolutely.
And that didn't happen. And we did remind him, never got a word back.
We reminded him a couple of times and didn't hear anything back. So our assumption right now is that the tubing hill will look exactly like what you have already approved. My problem is if it doesn't look like, if he puts up extra lights or, moves stuff around, now he's in violation and we
So
go
do we
back
send-
into the old,
So do we send a reminder saying as,
that's up to
I don't
you.
know how much hand holding do we do, but, because we don't want to come into November or December having snow
I don't-
making and big lights.
I don't think it's our job to anticipate what someone is gonna do and be proactive in trying to prevent it. I think it's their responsibility to do what they're supposed to do. And if they don't do it, I think that the
But
Board of
that-
Selectmen should prevent them from.
But doesn't
going
that
in.
put us in the hot, it seems like it's always happening, not always, but it's happened frequently with BBTS where, they're at a deadline and, we wanna support them, and so we kind of push things through, and should we start maybe trying to prevent those, Yes, it's not our job, but, if we're gonna end up circumventing and making things more stressful, should we just be proactive and trying to
Which
remind?
I think we have. She sent out letters to BBTS, constantly reminding them of dates and what they have to bring in.
I think
she's bent over backwards on doing that.
I think if once they didn't get pushed through and had to suffer the consequences of not getting something in, that might affect their future behavior.
Right.
If you remember, this rail, they went to the selectmen and asked for an extension, a 90-day extension. And I recommended to the selectmen that they make it 120 days so that they don't cut into our time. Well, in September will be 120 days. So guess what's gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
The bulldozers are here. I need approval today.
Well, maybe they shouldn't get it.
I agree. We've talked about this repeatedly, about them showing up and saying, we're ready to rock and roll.
Well, all developers do that. They
Well,
all
I
come
know,
in
but
and-
I think we have to start putting our foot down. Maybe send off a note to Sununu to say that, listen, you came with us, we're just putting you on notice that if you make any changes between now and the opening, you need to come before the board. Not the day of.
I don't know, she did send out the notice. She did send out a reminder. There's only so much you can do. I think she did much more than we required.
Required her,
Mm.
yes.
As Sarah said. they gotta keep, the developers have to keep track of their own dates.
Yes, they do. And I also think that Daddy has to back up Mommy when it comes to these things. And
Yeah.
they keep giving the extensions.
It's a good.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know, they missed the selectmen's deadline and they wanted that 120-day extension, now they'll miss that.
I have an idea that any kind of a deadline or any kind of a requirement that you put on is going to end up in front of the selectmen for their review.
Instead of the board.
Well, it's just going to be taken in front of the selectmen and say, can we get by without doing this, please? So.
Okay. I skipped over privilege of the floor. I see we have an audience.
Well, I'm here for Conservation Commission.
Okay.
Because we're on the agenda.
Yep. Oh, okay.
So, and Jean?
I'm just here to be here.
Okay.
I guess, and at the invitation of the chairman.
And next is
Can't
the
remember why, but-
acceptance of the wetland study to the master plan. I guess the way I see it, all we really need is like a one-page insert into the master plan as a chapter pointing to the big study.
Right.
Mhm.
Now that would be step one, which would probably be fairly easy. Step two would be deciding what sections of the wetland study that we want to go into the zoning and change. I think step one is fairly straightforward, and we'll have to have a public hearing next month to do that.
Is this simply a matter of having the paragraph just stating that we're accepting this overlay, the wetlands overlay? Is that what it's going to state, basically?
No, you're going to actually be accepting the entire book.
The book, yeah.
You're integrating the book into the master plan by reference. So it should, say whatever the title is, the date, prepared by, accepted by the Conservation Commission on such and such date. That'll be in the master plan as a single paragraph. Then you have the book over here. Then town council said that you need to create a zoning overlay district that in general defines the wetlands, prohibits or restricts development, buffers, addresses all of this stuff. That will be an actual overlay on the map, the zoning map, and then probably a new section in the zoning ordinance.
So this is highly technical, it sounds like. So who's going to come up with the verbiage for this?
Probably somebody involved with it.
This is what I feel.
Well, the definition of the wetlands is the map that she prepared.
Is there a verbal definition in that report? I don't recall. I mean, I know that they talk about wetlands, but is there a definition in that wetlands report that does describe what a wetlands and perhaps even a water
Yes.
body is?
Several
There is.
definitions.
Yeah, there are.
We have to discuss prime wetlands and the rest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but the prime wetlands are a separate, they're not, they can be noted on the overlay, but that's a whole separate section under wetlands.
Yeah.
So you have just wetlands, your regulation of the wetlands. Then you have to decide if you're going to accept any of the wetlands as prime. That's controlled by state statute.
Do the definitions that are in that report in any way reflect the definitions that are in the state statute? Are they worded the same?
Not under the definition of prime wetlands.
Well, the only reason I ask is because at some point in time, there's gonna be a decision as to whether or not we're going to adopt the state statute
As
governing.
prime wetlands, that's correct, yes.
So we ought to be conscious as to making sure the definitions are the same. if we're going to do that.
We're meeting on Monday, this coming Monday, and we're meeting with the state commissioner, probably in September, to help us define these.
I think that even if we don't use the state standard, it wouldn't hurt to have the definitions the same.
My understanding is that the state definitions of prime wetlands are, require an area larger in acreage than anything we have. So using the state definition of prime wetlands, nothing in Waterville Valley would qualify. However, my understanding of the regulations, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the Town Conservation Commission and Planning Board have the right to evaluate the wetlands and determine if, for our purposes, we deem any of these to be prime.
Correct.
And if that's by virtue of other factors like water storage, stormwater storage or recharge or educational value, we can, our town can designate some areas as prime to us, even though they don't meet the state's regulation of prime, and the state, if we submit that to the state, they will accept that.
That's right, and then the statutory restrictions for prime wetlands go to those wetlands that you or the town has designated prime.
I would avoid using that term, prime
Yes.
wetlands. In the same, you're using the same term for two different definitions. So I would suggest that if
Right.
we're going to do that, it'd be a prime asterisk or a prime 2 or something like that, because if you use the same term, it's going to cause confusion.
I would not even, if you do not feel that a wetland is absolutely critical, and there's just something about it that you want to have the most stringent regulation of, okay, and you read the statute and that's exactly what you want to have apply to that wetland, then call it prime. If you want to determine what the buffers are and what the development the development allowances are near the wetlands and all that, then just call them wetlands, okay? And have the map do your own definition, right, which can be the definition that's in the book already, and then you define what the buffers are, what the restrictions on development near them are, all of this stuff that the attorney laid out. Then you get to decide what that is
And then,
in the zoning ordinance.
so then we can decide that and not call it prime. is what
And
you're
not
saying.
call it, do not call it prime.
And that has legal standing then, that a developer can't.
The town, yes, we can accept regulations in the zoning ordinance that will limit in any, whatever way you want, development around them or whatever. You may have different, like she classified several different types of wetlands, right? And drainage areas and everything else.
Right.
You can adopt all of those definitions and put different restrictions on each one of them. Doesn't have to be a blanket thing.
How strong would if we decide to put restrictions on a certain area of wetlands, how strong would our
Enforcement?
enforcement as compared to, I think it made more sense for us to have it and not label something prime.
Right.
But with the understanding of prime being state controlled, what's the enforcement difference?
Whatever you adopt becomes part of the zoning ordinance, and it has the same enforcement as the zoning ordinance.
But could it be overridden, like by, I don't know, hardship brought to ZBA or something?
Well,
Is
yeah,
that-
I mean, the ZBA can hear basically anything, or Superior Court, in the case of state statute, if somebody wanted to do something in contravention to that, they could go do it at the Superior Court, I guess.
And that would apply to prime as well? They could take
Oh,
it
yeah,
up above?
yeah, they could-
So there's no
they-
absolute, like, this cannot be touched?
There's always case law.
Always, yeah.
There's always case law.
But prime would have to actually go to court.
Probably,
Because
yes.
the ZBA could
I don't think
overrule.
we can't overturn state law,
Right.
so they would have to go to court.
But it would be very distinctive and very clear as far as we would do an overlay Mylar of all the wetlands that are located within Waterville, whether they're prime or not. And then we would also, like in this breakdown from the attorney, it shows that it specifies the property, the lot number, and how much of that lot, so that when the developer goes to develop something like that, it's there, it's black and white.
Well, what we would do is, you know, the big map with all the zoning areas on it, if you look at our tax maps, that's been overlaid on the tax map. So when you go to a lot, you can see what zone it's in, okay? So we would do the same thing with the wetlands. That would just be another overlay. And so the wetlands areas would show up on the tax maps. And it's very precise. I mean, it's the same GIS system. So whatever she has drawn on the map will show up on the tax map.
I mean, that would be a good tool, I guess, for us and for developers to have. But if a developer has a piece of property and wants to do something with that property that may affect the wetlands or whatever, then that's where the next step comes in, right, from the developer's perspective. So.
Right, there's always mitigation. They have to appeal it,
Right.
and there's a process.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But that should be laid out, whether you're gonna follow a statutory requirement or for mitigation or something like that. That should be in our zoning ordinance so that it's clear.
The wetlands that are in that wetland study, plus or minus 15 feet, so they still have to have somebody come in and determine the exact wetlands for a developer.
You may put that in as a requirement in your subdivision regulations. I wouldn't get into that kind of detail in the zoning ordinance.
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if they do come in, because they only did it with the GPS,
What kind of provisions
not
are
a
in,
surveying GPS.
Right.
what kind of provisions are in that study? And again, I haven't read the whole thing, and we've got a review of it the other day, but regarding changes in wetlands, in other words, over time, we adopt a study, it's got these nice maps and so forth,
Yeah,
5 years
right.
later.
Yeah.
Roughly every 5 years, or in after a major event, I suppose. That they could be challenged, so we could proactively remap it every 5 or 10 years or whatever.
I would think that should somehow be addressed in
Absolutely.
the ordinance.
As part of that paragraph in the master plan, you mean?
Well, yeah.
I think it
Knowledge
should
date and-
start there
yeah.
and then kind of, that gives you guidance. Yep.
Okay,
So,
so next month we'll notice it, and can you draft something up? You said you're having a meeting on Monday?
We're meeting on Monday.
On Monday.
Okay.
Can you email us in advance so we can review it and maybe
Yeah.
communicate
right,
about it?
I think it would be helpful if, after our Monday meeting, maybe we could have a short workshop, maybe an hour with maybe a subcommittee of the planning board, and try to work on some of the verbiage here, or?
Well, yeah, it's gonna be, I mean, there should be a recommendation for what parts of we don't want that whole book to go into the zoning ordinance.
Right.
So we need to, okay, here's the map, that's very clear. That's the first thing that'll have to be on town meeting to be voted on. Then what exactly are you going to do? Are you gonna create a new section in the zoning ordinance? Is it, how detailed is it going to be? If you look at our lighting section of the ordinance, that may be a good guide for the kinds, the kind of thing you want to address, just apply it to the wetlands. But there's that was a pretty long process. That took
Yeah.
3 or 4
This is what I'm
months.
thinking,
this-
this is not, doesn't sound like an
Yes.
easy process.
I don't, yeah.
Can this be done in time for next month, or should the public hearing be
Well-
October? I mean, I know we're under
Public
time.
hearing
Well, you're
is-
not gonna do the public hearing next month. You're
Okay.
gonna, you can't start the public hearing
Right.
process until October or November. But you wanna have something
Ready to go.
ready. You don't wanna be starting the process in November, cause that's just gonna get
Well,
crazy.
there are
Right.
2 steps. One is to put it in the master plan, and that's
Right,
straightforward.
that's straightforward.
And that we can do next month.
Absolutely.
Now,
The one
That's what I was
paragraph.
talking
Yeah.
about. the
Yes.
Public hearing
So
for
that's
next month,
done.
and that's a 1-pager.
Mhm.
It's now in the master plan.
Right.
Step 2 is the changing the zoning regs, which, you're right,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
you can't do that till the fall, till
So you're saying do
January.
But
public
you
hear-
should
Right.
probably, the
Oh,
Conservation Commission should start now.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And start drafting up the language that they
Mhm.
want.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So, just the map goes into the master plan?
The
No.
whole-
Yeah,
The whole
paragraph.
report
The whole book,
is referenced?
by reference, yeah.
The master plan, that 1 sheet saying, go see this big thick book. And then we'll change the zoning as required, as we decide. Okay.
You'll help us with that?
We'll talk on Monday.
Yes, good.
Yeah. We'll get help from the state.
Yeah,
He's willing to come and meet with us. so.
yep, good. Good.
You know, I don't know.
Well, that can be good and bad.
Good man.
Do you want a committee to work with them?
I'm sorry?
I don't know. Should we have a committee that works with the conservation?
I think it would be helpful.
Anyone interested?
Go get them, Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
When we're ready to,
All volunteers want to step forward?
no volunteers.
That's it, huh?
Okay,
Okay.
so the Conservation Commission will bring something to you next week.
Okay. Okey-dokey. Review zoning regulations, signs. That was something that Bill gave us, and we had an example of that yesterday with the ZBA. Terry developed a real estate, went to the ZBA and wanted to put their sign back to where it was originally. The ZBA, because we didn't define a major intersection, decided that Davos Way and Valley Road was a major intersection and approved the sign change. There were a couple other areas that are pretty confusing with the signs. Did anybody still have the list that,
Is that what Bill had given out? Was it last?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yes.
He's making note, we talked about it.
Oh, okay, I wasn't here.
This was his last meeting?
Was it last week?
Wasn't it during the special meeting, was that BBTS, right, when there were only like 5 of us there?
Yeah. It was,
Yeah, so that was, that, July 10th meeting? Yeah,
I'm sure it was
because
there.
that was a site plan review for BBTS.
No, it wasn't.
No?
I don't
It was
think
at the,
that
it was,
had
it's in the
BBTS.
minutes of the last meeting,
Yeah.
of the
Okay.
July 10th meeting.
But, okay.
Was it in the, it might have been.
I don't
in
think
the-
it was anything,
No.
but it's in the minutes.
The special meeting was for the study.
Right.
Not for the signs.
No, you're right.
This was a result of a summary of his review of the sign
Right.
ordinance and what was
Yeah.
unclear,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I do remember that now.
Well, how about having Jean kind of talk you through what the ZBA decision was? That might give you a starting point. for some things that may need to be addressed.
Okay. Would you?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna repeat that part.
I just asked to have you kind of summarize some of the discussion last night about what the ZBA was finding questionable
Yeah.
with definitions or whatever.
I think that the primary thing came to the off-premise sign. And, I mean, you can look at some of the other parts which use same language. But if you go to off-premise signs,
What,
first.
what page are you on?
Oh, I'm at page, it says page 3.45.
4-5?
Yeah. It's,
Yep.
under section K, which is sign code and regulations. And
11.4.13 off-premise signs. Page 45, 3.45.
No, that's not, I'm not looking at the same thing,
Zoning ordinance?
you got it, Mark?
I do.
Paragraph 3, 5, 11, 4, 13.
Yeah.
11, 4, 13, yeah.
These were published March 2013. Which ones have you got?
This is the,
No, you don't have the new one.
13. Oh,
okay, good,
Alright.
all right.
I
Yeah,
gotta get a new.
you got an old one?
Yeah, she's got an old one.
Here's the, you got the right one?
I have the right
there?
one, yep.
All right, yes, we're ready.
Okay. When we started to look at it, what we were looking at, as Mark explained, was that the selectmen had denied the Rovers Real Estate Company the right to, the request to put their off-premise sign that they had had before on, I guess, a right-of-way of the town on Valley Road, just across from where Dallas Way comes out of, what we call 49, but I guess it's Valley Road,
Valley.
not 49. And I think if you all remember where the Rovers had it. Well, they have now moved back into the village complex for their business and had requested to put the sign back up. The selectmen said no, under the off-premise signs, it didn't fit within that. We started to look at it then from their appeal, and our problems were, nothing was defined. So local business is not within a business complex, you know. What exactly is a business complex? Do two businesses make a business complex? Does one business make a business complex? It says may list their name on shared directional signs located at the nearest major intersection. What is a major intersection? And then if you work down further, you'll see it says off-premises signs are restricted to directional signs for the entire complex. These directional signs shall list the amenities in the complex, not specific business names. But just above it, it says that that you can use the directional signs can list business names. So it's just there's a lot of it that we felt was confusing. Businesses within a business complex may have signs as allowed by the landlord within the complex. You know, what does that mean? Any signs permissible at that point? The landlord can say you can put up, you know, whatever sign you want here. You know, the whole walkway into the town square perhaps could be littered with signs. You know, it's just not clear there. And then the other one was to avoid sign clutter, only the primary businesses on the lot shall be listed on the directional signs. Well, again, that's inconsistent with where it says that you can't list the names, you can only list the amenities. But which is the primary business? The one that makes the most money, the one that has the biggest square footage, you know, I mean, so which one goes first, and the others have to attach, and how do they attach and stuff. Anyway, we just found the whole thing complicated, but the one thing that we focused on, and I think the Rovers felt, was that the Davos Way coming out of that end of, onto Valley Road is a major intersection as far as traffic goes. It services two businesses, the Village Rentals and the Rover Real Estate, and 92 units feed into that road, so that you've got 92 potential cars, or twice that if most people have two cars, as they do, potentially feeding out of that road. And they felt we felt that constituted pretty much a major intersection. There are other, and we discussed, well, what about other places along there? Is Jennings Road a major intersection? Yes, is Tecumseh Road, yeah, Packers Road, Whitewater Mountain Athletic Club? No, that's a parking lot. You know, that's not a major road, that's a parking lot is coming out. Mad River Condos, we're on the loop around, where a parking lot is coming out. But there's a difference where you have roads within feeding into Davos Way, you have businesses there, you have all the condos, and you have a stop sign there to indicate you're coming onto, I don't have a stop sign coming out of Mad River. I don't think there's one coming out of Whitewater Athletic Club. But so we felt that constituted a nearest major intersection, and that was what we primarily felt, because some of the other ones were just too difficult to figure out. We had to define some of this, what's a business complex, we had to do that, and we had to decide what the nearest major intersection is. So we felt, and I think the selectmen probably also felt that they were struggling with definitions on this off-premise signs. We felt that perhaps it might be a good idea that some of this got clarified. Don't ask me how. But we did approve the appeal and indicated that they should be permitted to put the sign there. I guess there's an appeal process now from this and some other things that we have to wait before they can do it, and finally, but we felt that given the best definitions we could come up with, that they felt within the off-premise signs.
Thank you for your input. And I think the selectman was struggling with the exact same questions.
And I think you guys are going to get in trouble with it now.
Yeah. And there was another issue too that Green Peak found, that I guess the developers can put up a sign when they get approval for a project, and they have to take it down when the first building is occupied. And they're saying, in the case of Green Peak, that they shouldn't have to take down the sign until all of the units are sold.
Yeah,
So
I got
that's another
Bill's
section.
letter on that.
So that's another area that we should clear up.
Mr. Chairman, I think if you don't have any further questions, Mandy.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. That's it.
It's a free country. Absolutely. Thank you for coming.
Oh, sure. Although I think 9 o'clock would be a much better starting time. Not all the pajamas by 8.
You don't want to cut in for lunch. I didn't realize he sent the letter.
We just got it.
You just got it? Okay. But that was another.
They recorded the building, Mylar, on the golf course without the signatures. It doesn't need to be signed again. Last sentence. Read the last sentence.
I don't know, I guess. He didn't talk to me. I didn't notice that, sorry.
Oh, so it was recorded.
Well, we couldn't find it if it was recorded. I don't know who it was recorded under. It wasn't recorded under Waterville Company or that we could find, because Karina did a search
Did it say?
before we had you come in and sign that.
That's it. So where's the Mylar now?
You have it, right? It's at Town Hall.
Well, you guys, the one you guys
Yeah.
signed is at Town Hall.
Yeah.
Haven't submitted it yet. You just signed it yesterday,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. You're saying that you don't have to.
Well, we're gonna
Gonna
check
have
with
to
them.
research that and
Yeah.
see if it is. Yeah, that seemed weird that it didn't. I mean, because he wanted it for a mortgage and he would have made sure it got registered.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's why I was surprised.
yeah. And now you
So.
can change your tax.
We will.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all of these changes will have to go to the March town meeting to change the zoning regs. I don't know, do we wanna get into the details now? I think we should wait for Bill, because he was instrumental in this.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said, I personally think we should wait for Bill to be here so that we can talk about these details. That's, I guess we could definitely talk about a major intersection. My feeling, a major intersection, when we said major intersection, was where roads intersect with roads and not ways and lanes. I thought it was clear in my mind, but that's not what got written. The other thing we talked about is distance, how far from a major road, you know. Could it be 50 feet, 100 feet?
Well, the other thing I think is confusing is major intersection. And, I mean, we have, like, to me, Tecumseh Road coming onto Valley is a major intersection.
Mhm.
Okay? But then we have intersections like Davos Way. It's not a major intersection. The one over here going into Valley, what is this called? Village?
Yeah.
That's a major intersection to me. And the one coming from the, BBTS area, those are major.
But is Black Bear Road a major intersection?
I don't think it is.
Is there any kind of way to pull in what roads are town maintained as a way to define what's major? I mean, if a town plow goes down, you know what I'm saying, is private
Well, that's a good
roads,
point.
not?
You know, it's,
But if you do that, you've got Moose Run is the town maintains, is that?
Only a
Mhm.
portion of it though, right?
yeah, but where it comes out.
Yeah,
Valley.
yeah.
Where it comes
So
out.
if
To
it
me, that
can't-
would be a major intersection there.
Moose
Yeah,
Run?
I think
That whole,
Moose
Well,
Run
so-
services less
Less
people
people
than
than-
Davos Way does.
yeah.
And
And
Davos-
it doesn't service any businesses.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
I mean,
Yeah, no,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
the
Point.
ZBA
Right.
was struggling with
Yeah.
last night,
Yeah,
because,
Well, it's,
And Davos Way does have another street that is within
Right.
that.
Intersection.
within the
complex
complex
that
that
comes
comes
into it,
into
so-
it,
Okay.
so.
You talk
Yeah.
of multiple streets, there's,
Mhm.
couple of businesses that, they,
That was part of the discussion, right? I mean.
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, I walk that loop an awful lot, and I see a lot more cars going to Town Square by this big sign in Moose Run than I do going down Davos Way.
Well,
well, come on a weekend.
I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, I'm just saying that was, in that definition, those are the kinds of things you have to, but simply saying because it's town maintained, then
Yeah, that's,
the intersection of Stone Tower Lane would then, with Boulder Path Road, would then become a major
I
intersection.
think a
So
major
that-
intersection is a judgmental
Yeah.
call, and I think it
I
also
agree.
changes over time.
Oh, it
Davos
might.
Way
I
might
agree.
today not be a major intersection, but if another road was to develop going the other direction, or perhaps
Mhm.
when traffic was to come in, it could be, so
And
I
the other
think
thing, would
I
the
think it has
safe-
to remain a
would the
judgmental call.
safety department also have input into what they feel as if would be a major intersection due to accidents and things like that? I mean,
I think
Right,
we have
but-
to
I
put this
think-
major intersection in the context of signs,
Right.
not traffic.
okay.
You know, we got the road coming in and we got the loop road.
Yep.
Where do we want signs? Where do we want directional signs? You know, right here, obviously, this keeps going out.
Section,
Probably here.
Yeah.
This, this road comes in,
Yeah.
directional signs probably there, there.
Tecumseh.
I think, yeah.
Will this
I
be
think-
addressed as part of our project about?
Well, I was just wondering, like, talking about major intersections, if VHB had, you know, identified that
Right.
type of traffic flow already,
Right.
it might be part of the works. But, you know, getting to what you're drawing there, right, or do we need to look at it more like these are the predetermined spots for signs, period?
Exactly, and naming
And
those.
maybe that just takes all the definition
I think
out.
something else needs to come into play.
Yeah, let's just.
Yeah,
If-
yeah.
In section K, 3.5.11.1, the statement of purpose and intent. The first sentence talks about signs and the keeping up the beauty of the valley and that sort of thing. And then, because we're tourists, whatever. And then the next sentence is, therefore recognizing that any business needs identification and that the public needs direction, the following sign regulations are written. I mean, there's a need
Yeah.
for businesses to be able to be identified.
Yeah, and even, I mean, I think this could snowball into a pretty big thing, because one of the things that Martin Kane had mentioned was the need for better branding, clearer sign cohesiveness throughout the valley. So you add that into where the location should be, and should they be predetermined, should it be based on traffic flow? I mean, it just keeps growing, so I don't.
Well, the other thing that I see happening here with all these sign requests coming in is, if you remember about 8 years ago, we had the big red signs
Yeah.
that were falling down.
Right.
Yeah.
If you read what we adopted last year, it exactly points us back to those signs. That's what this says we want. And those were not working. People were stopping in the middle of the road to read the signs because there were multiple businesses on them. And they had arrows, and sometimes the arrows went up and then turned, and sometimes they went straight. You know, business names changed and the signs weren't changed. All of that stuff. And we took chainsaws and took those signs down because they were more of a hindrance. Plus they were huge so that people could read them, and nobody liked the way they looked. Yet we wrote regulations 7 years later that point us right back at doing the same thing.
Well, the same idea, but not necessarily the same thing. Because I think that
Directional only, multi-business.
If you eliminate that one idea about one sign that holds a lot of different panels, you're going to end up with a plastow looking entry into town. It's just going to be sign after sign after sign after sign after sign. Because number one, the businesses are all going to want one, or more than one, to get them to where they're supposed to go. And number two, you're just going to, you can't put them one on top of the other because you've just decided that that's not the way to go. So they've got to, by definition, go one behind the other. So I don't think the idea was that we wanted to go back to exactly the way it was, but we wanted to go back to the concept of large sign, multi-panel signs at major intersections. I think that was what the idea was. And I think they came down not necessarily because they were not working, because they were rotting. They had to come down. That was the reason.
Yeah, but they weren't working.
There
Like
still
they
was
weren't
confusing
working
that.
Well, they weren't updated either. I mean,
They
weren't
had
kept
no
up to date
brand.
because the town didn't particularly own them. I don't think that was one of the problems.
That was one of the
town
problems.
didn't own them, so they couldn't maintain them. But the idea was that, well, if we're going to do it that way, then the town should take the responsibility of owning the multi-panel sign and keep it updated.
But the town still doesn't own signs. I mean, there were new signs put up a couple of years ago for the conference center, and also they're not town owned. They're still privately.
I know.
Well, it hasn't been adhered to. I mean, nothing. We put it in the books, but that's not what's been being done. They kind of get discussed, and then they just kind of get.
Well, how are we not adhering to it?
Well, apparently there are other signs that are going up that don't go by that definition of the individuals are still putting up their signs when it was supposed to be limited in that respect.
Where are they?
Yeah.
where are they
signs?
putting
There it is.
off-premise signs that,
I was looking for your off-premise, I couldn't find it in here, I don't know what it's talking about. But I guess there's a definition of off-premise and on-premise signs that was a
Yeah.
part of that latest
Yeah, absolutely.
change and so
Yeah.
forth.
yeah,
But I still think it was the idea that we were going to go with those panel signs and not go with those other type of signs.
oh, that's not what the selectmen took away from it. They are looking for business routed, beautiful signs with mountains and decorations and everything else. They're not looking for panel signs at all.
I think that's why I went with the wording that the primary businesses
Right,
named
exactly.
as opposed, not all this, and
And
that's
the only
another
panels are
definition we
the
need.
secondary, whatever a secondary
Right,
business is. The
right.
secondary business being underneath a primary business sign, like the town square sign at Village and Valley. That's what the selectmen are thinking this
Like
did.
in North Conway,
Huh?
like North Conway, basically.
Yeah,
Large,
yeah.
beautiful signs
Right.
that are all over the place. Yeah.
Well, the beautiful sign with a like a development name, the Commons or whatever, and then businesses, the secondary businesses underneath that. That's what they're thinking.
But that would also cause people to stop in the middle.
Well, I know, it's not always
I still
easy.
say we just hold off until we were paying someone who's a
Yeah.
professional town
Yeah,
planner,
yeah.
who's looking at our signs, they took pictures of them, they're talking
Yeah.
about them. And they're gonna give us some feedback on what we ought to be doing.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think,
we just move as slowly as we can until we get their feedback.
yeah, because they're
I
looking
think
at
it ought to
it.
be, continue to be on the agenda, as an agenda item, as we go through this process.
Right.
Because I think that will have an impact, and I think that we as a planning board shouldn't make any decisions about changing any language now until we really find out what they say.
Yeah.
And then we may wanna redefine the language here.
Yeah, because they're
I mean,
working
clearly
on
it's
the,
broken, they should just help us fix it.
and they're working on the whole opportunities phases now, so theoretically, this should be, I think, part of what's being addressed. And I know we have to keep an eye on the calendar to get anything in time, but
It's gonna be,
as long,
tight.
yeah, I think this is the right approach, keeping it on the agenda for the next few months as we
yeah.
get to the end of our deadline to make any changes and
Yeah, because
keep
the
us, so you can
study
study our
has-
thumbs so we know.
The study has a whole section on signs, it
Yeah.
has pictures of all the signs.
Exactly.
The traffic study has all the intersections.
I would just ask that they also address temporary signs, because
Okay.
we are sometimes overrun with
Right.
temporary signage.
Well, like the
And-
Gordon Research.
Well,
is-
Gordon Research, I mean, if you're doing it for 5 years and you have a
Yeah.
professionally made sign, that's not a temporary sign.
And it's
Right.
an off-premise.
It's a permanent sign that you take down so you can plow in the winter.
And it's an
um,
off-premise sign too.
And it's off premise, and there are multiples of them sometimes.
I know.
And yet,
You
I
know.
still had a little Asian couple up by the beaver pond asking me where the conferences are.
You know, so that whole
You know, so bad.
thing, and really, selectmen don't have much choice on temporary signs, because temporary signs, it says every temporary sign requires a permit similar to any other sign. That's what it says about temporary signs. So, what are the selectmen supposed to do with that? I'll tell you right now, we're approving every temporary sign that comes in.
Even with whatever we end up with, I think we still need to look at the sign situation, realizing that there are going to be special circumstances that are beneficial to the town that may not be covered exactly in the verbiage of our ordinance. I mean,
You mean like as far as banners and stuff? That
no,
kind of
not
thing?
banners, but take Roper Realty, the way it was written before, and, I mean, it's a major it's one of the major businesses in the town. I mean, you've got 2 real estate companies selling most of the property in town. I mean, that really affects the entire community, property values, everything, I would guess. So, under some of the interpretation, they weren't allowed to put a sign up. Now the ZBA looked at it differently and is allowing them, but I mean, I guess, and maybe go to research, they come year after year after year. We're looking to increase home ownership and residents and bring businesses into the valley. I just think we need to keep all of that in mind. We have to do it tastefully and
Which I think is where
but
the SE group will come in to really help with the guidance.
I don't think we can just write a regulation, say these kind of signs are not permitted, or they're permitted for a while, or whatever. It's really important to look at some of these other situations and how we need to address them, or make a provision so that they can be addressed.
Right.
It's possible, you know, that it's possible that because of the way the roads are set up here, that it may not be possible to come up with an ideal solution. So I think, you know, waiting for the study is great, and I think we really need to do that.
Yeah.
But to keep in mind that there may not be a perfect solution just because of the way the town is structured.
A lot of the temporary signs for the weddings, I mean, they're up for overnight, you know, 2 days and then they're down.
Right, but we have businesses that spend $4,000 on a sign to get routed and painted and gold leaf and everything else, and then we have a wedding, and there's a cardboard tent sign with handwriting on it that says "Welcome Jim and Betty, congratulations."
Right.
I mean,
Right.
really, is that what we?
Right.
I mean, we've got such a wide range of signage that it's kind of crazy.
Another business opportunity in town.
No.
Temporary signs.
Temporary sign.
Temporary sign.
Yeah.
No, and all of it will be addressed, but we need to also be thinking about because I don't want to just I mean, they're going to give us some recommendations, but it doesn't mean we automatically, that's what we're going to do. I mean, it's going to be good information that you're going to get back, but there's still a decision process that you have to make to put it in to the ordinance and all that, right?
But that's a good question. Do we have a path to just take down those cardboard signs? And we should just have a policy that just says for weddings, they can tie their balloons to the permanent sign that says wedding pavilion this way. And they'll know it, and then they won't be putting those signs up, and if they do, we'll take them down.
But balloons are prohibited in the zoning ordinance, I think.
Okay.
I don't think you can tie anything on the signs.
Well, whatever.
No, I know what you mean,
A ribbon.
but you see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it just
Tie
goes.
their wedding color ribbon around the wedding
That's how
Whatever it
ridiculous,
is.
because we go to those extremes of.
The town should make up signs, and when wedding comes in, they say, okay, here's some wedding signs, you're gonna use these signs.
But we need a sign that says wedding pavilion this
Right.
way.
Oh,
That's the
absolutely.
problem, is that Bill
Absolutely.
has not signed his
Right.
wedding pavilion.
Right,
So that's the crux.
that's right.
But all weddings aren't at the wedding pavilion either, right?
Right.
Some of them are at the conference center,
Right.
so, I mean, we need to
Right.
address
It's
that,
signed
but.
for the conference center.
And there's
It's
no
like-
parking there, so he probably doesn't want
But
people
if there
knowing
was
where
a,
it is, 'cause
if
they
there
can't
was a
park.
standard sign
No, I'd be on Field
available
Arbor.
Oh.
Yeah.
to put
Wherever, yeah.
wherever,
I thought the
it'd be a
wedding
standard
pavilion was
sign.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You
But
could
there's
put
no
neon
parking.
sign like the one that was
Like,
there.
Wedding today.
Yeah, wedding.
Could we have it pink and purple?
I think pink and purple would be the best. Absolutely. Maybe some yellows.
Yeah.
But
Actually, when Nancy and I redid our vows in Vegas, we had this great sign, congratulations, Mark and Nancy. It was only about 35 feet by 20. It was great. Yeah.
Was Elvis on it?
Actually, Elvis did the ceremony. Thank you.
Oh.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Did they actually get approvals for those cardboard signs? No, I mean here in town.
Oh, here in town?
Yeah.
Or do they just- yeah.
Yes, they do. They
Yeah,
come
I
in,
thought
but
they
they
did.
usually come in on Thursday
Yeah.
afternoon at 4 o'clock for the Friday wedding and
Yeah.
Friday
Right.
for the Saturday
Yeah,
wedding.
so-
So, we're not getting We're not really enforcing it, we're just,
Right.
we know about it.
Do we charge for a permit?
In most cases, we do. Some of the recurring temporary signs, like the real estate open house signs, they paid a one-time fee and then
Could
they're
some
all
of the
set.
payments, I don't know what the charges are, I don't wanna get into that, but couldn't something get worked out where, and I'm serious about this, the town actually goes out and has somebody create some kind of generic signs and payment comes from,
Well, yeah, it just goes into the, we just do it as part of the budget, but.
I mean, at least there'd be some consistency.
Right.
Well, that's a good idea, keep
Like
it
a
in
sign,
mind.
and then you can put
Right.
inserts in for the different names.
Whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rent out the signs.
right,
Oh,
instead of paying for a permit, rent the sign.
Well,
Yeah.
make it a permit, with the permit comes a town sign that you can use, and this is how you
Right.
can.
Yeah, your permit is to put up the
Put
town
up the
provided
sign.
sign. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an option, so
And
think
then-
about that.
Then you know what signs are gonna go.
You know, we've got weddings, we've got,
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way to go. Mhm.
Just jumping ahead a little bit, but the second survey, is that gonna get into any details on the signs?
I haven't seen a copy of it yet. Mark King's on vacation this week. But theoretically, the whole structure of the second survey is around opportunities that have been identified through the initial parts of the study. I'm not sure if they're gonna lean it more towards pedestrian and vehicle friendliness or how, I haven't seen it yet.
Sorry, jumped ahead. While we're on signs though, and I guess we've decided that we're gonna wait, to get some clarification from the study, because that's gonna help us a lot.
I think it should,
You know, there is a section on signs and
yeah.
intersections, but there is one other thing we should probably discuss, is this thing from Bill Cantlin
Yeah.
about the signs. You know, should it be the first occupancy or the last, or 50%, 20%, 30%?
Why don't we ask Mark and put that into the project?
What's that?
Ask Mark
Ask
Kane.
Mark
Yeah, let's
Kane.
put it in the project, because the truth is, what if they don't sell for 20 years? We don't want to sign up that long.
Well, I think
I'm
that's why
pushing it to
we-
the extreme, but I think that probably there's some sort of standard out there.
I think that's why we had the first. Otherwise, it'd drag on forever.
Well, and you also need to define development, because on Moose Run, you have a subdivision, and he's selling lots, okay? Not buildings.
Right.
He's selling lots.
Hmm.
So, does that mean that he can put a sign up that says lots for sale? Okay?
Well, doesn't he have one at the
At-
top right now?
No, we made him take them
Oh,
down.
you did?
Yes.
Okay.
And what is the first certificate of occupancy? Is it when the first lot sells?
Yeah.
Or when the first building is built and occupied? Or does that mean he can keep it up? Because that might go 20 years.
Right. For every
Until the
lot.
last lot is sold and the last house is
Yeah.
built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
now, it's different than Green Peak, where you have a building and you have units being sold maybe, but defining development is an issue, because we've had people ask to put up signs to sell lots, and you already have 20, 15 houses built in there.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference, and I think we need to pay attention to that part of it.
Yeah.
But I also
I
feel-
meant Mark Kane as part of this project, because maybe there's a standard out there, because I wouldn't want to, I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't
If-
know either.
If you were allowed that situation that he's asking for, then the 40 properties that are on the market right today,
Mhm.
they have signs on them. I mean,
You could.
it's no different.
Well, except some of those are resales.
Doesn't make any difference whether it's a resale. Why would a resale have any disadvantage over a new sale?
Right.
Well,
It's just a different owner. The developer owns the unit that's for sale for the first time. And the owner owns the building. I mean, you know, why would the developer get the advantage?
Right.
Well, for sale signs are disallowed anyway.
That's what I mean.
They're not allowed at all.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's exactly the point.
These development signs are supposed to be so contractors can
That's right.
find them.
Right.
That's right.
Well, when does the contractor not have to find them? After the first
Certificate of occupancy is.
certificate or the last certificate?
And I think with Green Peak, it's because that middle unit hasn't sold and he's trying to advertise it as much as he
I
can.
think it's
Well, that's
sold.
why the town
It's
told
sold.
him,
It's sold. It's
It's sold
finally
last
sold.
month or
That's
something.
what we
the town told him to take the sign down because they had hit the first occupancy.
Mhm.
And they're saying that, well, it should really be the last. We want the sign up till the end.
Well, he's claiming it's a typo or something like that, and it only makes sense that it be the last one, but I don't think that's the case.
I don't think
Yeah, I don't
that's the
think so.
case.
You put up a 20 complex.
A 20 unit
20 unit.
condo.
Right.
And you, yeah, the market could go south, and if it doesn't go to auction, and they, somehow the developer can manage to keep paying the fees or whatever he's into it
Yeah,
for, I
yeah.
mean, it could have 5-6 years of
Yeah.
having a sign up, that's
Or
ridiculous.
longer. I mean, like
Yeah.
that place at the end of Tenny Mountain with all the
Yeah.
big restaurant spots still empty after
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
sees that sign. Oh, look. Yes.
No, I think
Yeah.
the first was intentional myself.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, after that, once the building's up, I mean, people are either gonna go buy it, and most people are gonna shop at the real estate office
Well,
anyway,
yeah, there's
right?
an MLS. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Right.
So it sounds like we've decided to.
So I think in that case, that's what we meant.
build an opportunity to defend his
Yeah.
Yeah.
case here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe no to last, but is there a percentage, and that's where Mark Kane, you know, is it when it's 50% occupied? But that's where Mark Kane could,
Yeah, well,
I know.
we could
Well,
run-
then
we could
you're
run
getting
50.
into the selectmen's dilemma on road acceptance, you know, and the whole
Right.
issue,
Yeah.
75%, and how many big trucks are gonna go on it for the other 25%.
And 50%
You know,
of
50%.
50% of a unit condo and 50% of
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No,
30-unit
I'm
condo.
just
It's a
saying.
longer period of
Yeah.
time between.
Right, but just
Fine.
maybe there is a standard out there that,
Yeah.
But this is all in the context of signs, though, so
Yeah.
right.
it's really the signs that we're.
All right.
Okay, I guess we beat signs to death.
So I have keep
what are
on
we
the
doing with
agenda
this?
in the
We will
future
keep this on
and wait for the pedestrian survey.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
definitely keep it.
Good.
Because we will make
sure
some
Mark-
recommendations for changes to clarify this.
That's part of it.
Do the
Yeah.
update on the pedestrian village study?
We're having the community picnic. I think you all should know about it, hopefully, Friday the 22nd at the athletic club on the outdoor pool. Kind of a chance for the SC group to present their findings so far and, you know, work towards their next stage of getting feedback from folks. Keeping it pretty casual. Sean Stout's been very helpful, is gonna help out with providing hot dogs and hamburgers. Mike O'Brien's jumped in and is gonna help out with pizzas. The biggest thing we've been trying to figure out is our budget for this. We did make it partial potluck or voluntary potluck, whatever you wanna call it, for sides and desserts. But that's been the next big step that we've been really involved with on the project. Like we said before, I think the survey is in the works behind the scenes, but I haven't heard an update on when to expect that yet.
And this will be held at the sports.
At the athletic club and the outdoor pool area. The rain location's at the rec department.
Okay, do we think that'll hold everybody? Yeah.
Sean said they've had up to 300 people out there.
Oh, okay,
So,
wow.
yeah, we kind of toured around and looked at seating and.
All right.
What time was it?
At 5:30, about 5:30 to 8:30-ish. But yeah, the budget's been a bit of a stumbling block because we just don't know how many people to expect, of course. And, you know, we wanna offer the food as free to folks who come. And I know that there's been a Facebook page put up, right? Thank you, Tom, or an event thing, and there've been some RSVPs so far. So,
Less than a dozen.
okay, well, starting.
Typical.
But do
The hour before.
do people know that
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
What's that?
do people know that that's, how do we get that message out?
It's gone out a number of different ways.
Yeah, between
Yeah.
Jan's blog and
Jan's
Nancy
been on
sent it to a
Jan's
bunch
blog.
of groups and, yeah.
We've
Wigwag?
sent it
We've
to our
tried.
Wigwag, yeah.
We've sent it to our list, it's on our Facebook page, it's on the town website. Jan's put it on her blog, she's put it out to her email blast.
Well, I've seen it.
I've
did
seen
make
it like
the Wigwag.
3 times.
Yeah.
It's been in the Wigwag,
Yeah.
so, I mean, I think
I think it's gotten a
There are
lot.
signs up.
we're
Yeah.
trying to,
exposure.
we've got posters around, or
Yeah.
little
Yeah,
flyers around
flyers
town.
No, I think it's
So,
gotten a lot.
yeah, I think we're communicating it as best we can.
Think we need a banner or something?
People probably just show up instead of, responding.
People are responding,
Yeah.
it's like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Take that banner down.
I know. Let's get a cardboard sign out.
Yeah, exactly, handwriting. With a marker that's
We'll have
going
to give
bad.
ourselves a special permit.
Balloons.
Yeah.
Put balloons on it. Only if they are
And
fluorescent
ribbons.
pink.
And blinking.
That's good, okay. When is the second survey gonna go out?
It's supposed to be this month,
This
so
month,
it
yeah.
should be, like I said, in the works behind the scenes.
And what's the deadline on that one?
I'm not sure. Last one, I think we'd extended it more than they wanted to like 5
Right.
weeks. I think they wanted to make it more of a 3-week time frame,
Yeah, 'cause time
just
is
to
running
keep within
short.
their schedule exactly.
Yeah, because now we're up against it.
Fall's coming.
I'm starting budgets. Yay. It's almost 2015. December's on the 4-month planning calendar, by the way, just throwing that out there.
Great.
Throwing that out there. That's Christmas. There's only, how many more shopping weekends?
Oh, don't even go there,
Don't
Mark,
start.
for God's sake.
I just want to ruin everybody's day. I saw that on Facebook.
Maple trees all turn.
It's time.
Wow.
Down at the, coming in from Hampton,
Yeah.
the swamp maples are turning.
And I don't know if you noticed, but like on my banking, the white birch trees always start dropping their leaves in the middle of August. It's crazy.
Yeah, the yellows and reds are
It's just-
starting. Yay! Hey, we made it through another year.
We're still operating.
It goes by too quickly now.
Okay, privilege of the floor, Tom?
Nothing today.
I have a question. I know everyone wants to go, but I want to bring this up. The Wigwag's had an article and a response, and it kind of brought the issue to my mind, and I have a kind of a question as to the type of entertainment that comes into the valley now, and how it is in any way controlled. And the article had to do with the type of organizations that were coming in and the effect it had on the town.
Is this the Warriors?
Yes.
What's,
The Warriors.
what are the Warriors?
It's the group of guys who, chose.
But I'm not picking on that particular
Oh, okay.
thing. I just wondered if there is any mechanism that when these organizations come to town, it's good for the businesses because they buy stuff, places rent and so forth, but it can be rather consistent. And I think that the marketing has been quite successful over the past few years, and we've had a lot more busy weekends with the races and the weddings and whatever you call this warrior thing and the hockey and all that kind of stuff. But what it does is it makes the weekend rather
Business sustainable?
business sustainable, but a little inconvenient for the residents. I don't know if the residents are being represented well. I went through the master plan and I couldn't find anything that would in any way determine what would go on. But let's face it, the residents share in these celebrations every weekend. They share in the inconveniences of getting around town. and so
Well, the
forth.
residents can share in no businesses if they don't have these things.
Well, I'm just wondering, my question is there any type of control?
You mean
on
out of
this?
sound?
Yeah, what's the inconvenience? I missed the
Yeah.
article, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, if, like, say they're setting up for a race. You know, there are detours and there are places where, you know, you can't drive
Absolutely.
out the way.
The triathlons, and
Yeah.
it's not just the Warriors, it's the triathlons, it's
All these
the-
activities have an
Yep.
effect, and my
They do.
question is, do we have any means of control this? Because I think it's going to get a little more active
Mhm.
because of the success of the advertising, of the
Mhm.
resort program and so forth. And does this could, one of the examples that was brought up by this article was, well, you know, when will we have the 3-day rock concert, hard rock concerts on the field out there,
Mhm.
Packers Field? And so it kind of brought it to mind, well, you know,
There
there
is
is nothing that will
control.
prevent that.
Everyone, well, there's no control over something like the Warriors, where they are inside an establishment, they sign a contract with the arena, you know, because we don't run the arena
Right.
anymore. I say we, the town does not run the arena anymore. The selectmen do not have any input into that, okay? But the triathlons, the road races, the duathlons, all of those things, those race coordinators come to the town, usually in December, January timeframe, and say, I wanna run a race in August. You know, can we use Packard's Field? Can we, you know, get the detours and all of that? And the selectmen say yes, and 90%, 99% of the time, there are no issues. And then they coordinate with public safety and set up the courses and all of that.
So it goes,
So-
anytime a group like that, what about Gordon Research? I mean, do they
Nope.
come?
Nope, they're
into
inside,
town?
the town has no say
So if
in
it's
that.
outside the town?
Well, if
has
they're
approval.
using town facilities, if they're gonna close roads or anything else like that, they have to come to the town. But other than that, you know, the weddings don't come to us, the Gordon Research doesn't. Group sales, anywhere in town, none of that is licensed or
They just,
controlled.
they simply have to abide by the sound ordinances
Yep.
or the lighting ordinances?
Well, yeah,
or
and
whatever
sometimes
it is.
we'll get something like that, can we, you know, a wedding wants to do fireworks at 10:30 and the cutoff is 10 o'clock or whatever. Then that will come in for approval by public safety, and if Chris or Dave aren't comfortable approving it themselves, then the selectmen will get to vote on it, which they do quite a bit of the time. There's always, if you look at our agendas, there's always little items like that, but it's pretty much pro forma. I can't remember the last time we actually turned something down. I mean, if they wanted to fire them off at 2 AM, that wouldn't get approved, but generally the people are just asking for an extra half hour or hour or something like that, and they get it.
There
And I
really-
know what go ahead.
Well, I just didn't know if there was any standard, just looking at I didn't know if there was something that somehow was going to keep a handle on what the character of the valley might be with regard to, like, would it be, is it in the character of the valley too, as this guy, as the example was made in the wigwag, a 3-day hard rock concert, is that what the valley wants to be known as, like the Guilford thing, I guess that they do that quite a bit.
Oh, right, no, and look at the blues festival down in Thornton.
Right.
You know, multi-day, thousands of people, and bands till midnight or whatever time they play till. Is that what we want here in town? Do we want to have that on Packard's
But
Field?
the control basically is the use of public land and the sound or the lighting or
The sound,
whatever.
lighting,
Yeah.
is it an allowed use in where you're doing it? Is it on town property? Is it causing traffic alterations, things like that?
All right, you've got that big mountain race coming up, right?
Yeah.
Mountain.
Pinnacle?
But that's all happening at the, we
At the
haven't,
mountain
there's no
forest.
licensing because it's all happening at the mountain.
Right, but in traffic wise, it wasn't this
There's
discussion
no
about the, trying
traffic.
to see if ESPN or somebody would
There's
show
no
up?
traffic issues that we've been told of. The only public safety issue is EMS
Mhm.
on site, so.
But there again, my traffic issues, remember when we had the review with Mark Kane a couple weeks ago, what we see as higher
Yeah.
traffic for most of the US is still, you know, an A
Yeah.
rating.
Yeah.
So just, you know,
Yeah.
little reference point.
I'd like to bring up.
That's a good point.
We actually had that traffic fatality yesterday in town.
What?
That poor baby moose, he.
Oh, it
I didn't
didn't,
see that.
it didn't.
Oh, yeah. he
It
did.
got hit?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh,
What
he
happened?
crossed,
Where, Mark?
he crossed.
He actually committed suicide. The guy was trying to avoid him, and I guess the baby just kept running in front of him until he finally hit him, so.
Oh.
Yeah. So, no, but see, that's
20
traffic.
miles an hour?
You know, you put, yeah, I know. You
Yeah.
can't, I'm telling you, the thing, he was explaining it to Chris, it's like, I kept turning and he just kept running in front of me.
Yeah, how
No,
about
so-
stopping?
Yeah, stop, you couldn't put the brake on.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's kind of my traffic issues here in Waterville Valley are totally different than the rest of the
Don't see
United
any
States.
moose here anymore.
I saw, we saw Aggie and I saw 2 bats flying above our parking lot one evening, so
Oh, good.
we do have some bats. That's a good thing. I got one other issue, or something I'd like to talk about, and that's the door-to-door solicitation.
What?
Huh?
Mhm.
Door-to-door solicitation in the
Of who?
valley.
Where?
What did they
There was a
solicit?
group that was in town, and I came home to find flyers on my door and my neighbors, and then I had to proceed to pick them up because the wind blew them off. And I also take a little, I mean, a lot of us leave our doors unlocked. I mean, I don't get the advantage or what of having people come door to door in the valley, but there are some legal aspects to it, I guess, and whatever, and so can we speak about that for a minute?
Do people
Okay,
have to
what's
get,
the issue?
Well, I don't know.
We have a zoning ordinance paragraph that prohibits commercial door-to-door solicitation.
Okay.
There
What's the
are,
definition of commercial?
well, it's,
For profit.
it is, yes, it's actually, I think it is defined in here what is prohibited. The issues that Bob's talking about are either political or religious.
Mhm.
There are some things that we cannot prohibit people from doing as a town. If a property owner puts a sign up, there we go, back to signs, that says no solicitation, then they are not allowed, then you would just call the police and they're not allowed to solicit. Whether it's political or religious, it doesn't matter. So for the condo associations, if they want to vote to have no solicitation on their property, they would put, come in, get a sign permit, put a sign up on the condo property, and tell the police that there's no solicitation allowed in that development, and then they would not be allowed in that development.
If an organization of whatever kind,
Mhm.
political or religious, whatever,
Mhm.
they have to come, do they need to come to the town to get
No.
permission to?
No, they don't.
So there's, wow.
We have rights in this country of freedom of religion, freedom of political expression.
No, I understand that. It's
And
just,
those things are allowed. So as a single-family homeowner, you could put a little placard at your door that says no solicitation.
yeah, but they get to your
Or-
door before they
well,
read it.
Well, or you can
It's feast of
come to the
purpose.
town and ask for a sign permit to put a little sign at the end of your driveway, no solicitation.
Here we go, signs.
Here we go with signs,
Yeah.
but that's exactly right, because we have no trespassing signs that we've made property owners take down because they put up the black and orange,
Mhm.
no trespassing. they're not allowed. But you are allowed to post your land, it's your land.
Right.
You can say whether you want other people walking across it or not.
Mm.
So you come into the town, get the proper signs, and then nobody's allowed to trespass, and then you can call the police and they can be removed. So, but other than, so the civil rights are to some extent, and we probably could not prohibit them from walking around on a public road, or, as long as they're not blocking traffic and all that other stuff. Or walking around Packard's Field with a little placard that says whatever they want it to say. We're not gonna be able to stop that. And with your sign discussion, that's another, we're going to be facing it. Here it comes, November of an election year is coming. I'm not sure that we can prohibit somebody from putting a 40 by 40 sign of their favorite political candidate on their property. You have a right to some level of freedom of expression. So, that hasn't been, it's been kind of tested. There have been a few people that have wanted to put up political signs. We were told by town council that they don't even have to fill out a permit application, even if it's free, because you can't track who's supporting which candidate.
I think it should make a difference which candidate it is.
Well, I think so too.
But I found it interesting that this.
Well, just one other thing. On the religious side too, we'd be kind of, we're facing that kind of thing with signs. Somebody wants to put up their belief on a sign on their property. I don't know if we can stop them.
Well, getting back to the solicitation as opposed to the sign thing, I found it interesting that in the incident, or the day I was talking about, I don't know how many days they were soliciting, but I talked to homeowners, and they seem to have been soliciting higher density. I mean, you get a bigger bang for your buck, right? If you can go to 10 doors in 2 minutes as opposed to going down and going street by street or block by block. So,
if I were in an association and I didn't want them coming, I'd have that discussion at an association meeting and get a vote.
But condo hotels and Black Bears or whatever, they go into the lobby and ask the manager, and if they say no, they can't, or if the manager says no, they're in trouble.
Well, I think that's up to the manager. I mean, I wouldn't give him legal advice on what he can and can't do, but if I were that business, I'd probably put the placard right by the door, or put it on the door, or something. And I think some may already do that, but it's not a sign like we would have to permit. You know what I mean? It's kind of, or maybe it says it in their lobby, or I think that's how they get around it.
So if an association applied for a no solicitation sign permit to be put on their property?
Yeah, I don't see
would that, what my question is, would that be indefinite permit?
Sure, why not? I mean, unless we were told by somebody that the association had voted to rescind it or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything that has to be reapplied for. The only other thing on that we're going to have to consider with signage, and I'd like Mark to look into this too, is signs, private business signs on town land. What the selectmen can only lease property for a period of 1 year, okay? And I know there is a fee, so there's money exchanging, but we're not charging right now. As an example, the town square sign at the intersection of Village and Valley Road. That's on town property, it's in the town road.
Aren't a lot of them on
Okay.
the right of ways?
No, not many
Oh,
of them.
not
I
many.
drove
Okay.
around and there aren't many. There's the sign at the corner of the golf course going down Boulder Path, maybe in the right of way, but most of them are far enough off that we're okay. But the question for Mark Kane is, seeing as how the selectmen cannot do more than 1 year on a lease, town meeting has to approve leases of town property, and they can only lease up to, I think it's either 3 or 5 years, okay? So I don't know that a town meeting can, even a town meeting can grant a sign on town land for more than maybe 3 to 5 years. So, but I don't want these signs to have to come back over and over again. So we're gonna have to, and fortunately in driving around there are very few of them that we have to worry about. Because our rights of way are generally very small. But Valley Road is.
Village and Roper signs.
The Village and Roper signs are 2. The town square sign is a 3rd. The sign going up to the tennis centers is a 4th. So there's a handful of them.
What's the high percentage?
At the major intersections.
Oh, imagine that, Ray. Look at that.
What about the sign coming back from the mountain, right at the stop, almost
Is
at the
that
stop sign?
Is that a state?
Well, we've agreed that the town and the mountain own those, co-own those.
Did we agree to update them?
Well,
There's a
actually, I've had a
actual
conversation
plan,
with Bill
yeah.
Carr, and we're gonna talk about that. So, we have this other issue of use of town land that I'd like to address at the same time, because town council brought it up, and it's kind of a sticky thing, because can you imagine going to town meeting and having a warrant article for a sign? Oh my gosh, we'd be there all day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be blue, I want it to be green.
Plus it could be every year unspecified town grants
Yeah, but
sign approval for 3 to 5 years.
But I think that the statute specifically says you can't continue to allow a
Can't be
lease.
automatic renewal.
It can't be an automatic renewal of a 1-year lease, because that has the same effect as being. And that's why we voted, if you remember, we voted on the lease of the arena at town meeting.
Right.
And that was, but that did have a term, so we may be able to write a lease agreement similar to the arenas that's a multi-year thing and have town meeting vote on it and get around it that way, but. So it's gonna be an issue we're gonna have to talk about. Because they're at major intersections, they're in the places that I saw you circling on a map, and it's gonna be exactly the spots where we wanna put these signs. Are gonna be on the town.
Now we're really seeing the benefits to the $90,000 pedestrian village study.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
These are issues that I don't wanna be.
84.
84.
Credit.
No, but,
Yeah.
no, but it's one of those things that we have to, we might as well settle this all at the same time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So any other questions about solicitation or any other, because it is part of the zoning ordinance, so.
Yeah, no, they
You-
came around to us,
Yeah.
and Pat actually called Dave.
Okay. That's all we can do,
I think
so.
Dave came around and couldn't find.
Well,
And
they
were a
those
religious
folks,
group anyway,
we,
so-
well, see, last time they came into town a couple of years ago, we told them to leave town. Under the no solicitation, they went to the Secretary of State's office and we just dodged a civil rights violation claim. But Dave issued an apology, and so we got away with that. But they did agree as part of that to at least let us know at town hall when they're in town. They don't have to, but they said that they would, and they have been pretty good about
Can
doing
the town send out a notice, just so that we're not surprised, no?
that. No, I wouldn't. I think it's better that if somebody call us, we just say, yeah, we know they're in town.
Yeah.
They can be in town. I don't want to start.
Okay.
No. When it's
Counter protest.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're tracking the protesters. Yeah, no.
We could put our sawhorses across the driveway.
Right.
Well, the association on the association property, if
Yeah.
you've got a vote, then we'll uphold your vote. But we can't do it as a town.
Then how big this sign has to be, where it has to be.
Well, we should talk about those things, yeah.
No, I
yeah.
mean about the no solicitation.
Oh, the no solicitation, I don't think it has to be very big, and
I got a
think you
perfect
can.
spot, right on our brand new dumpster, on the side coming in,
know.
you know? I get it all planned.
Yeah, okay, well, wherever you put it, we don't really, I don't think we care.
Okay, any other privilege of the floor? Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned at, chips that one out.